All right, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning. I'm Emma Bennett with the State Water Board. Thanks for joining me this morning as CEDEN user group for November. We will, first thing I wanted to mention, the updated version of the chemistry has now been posted. So just a reminder, when you're on the CEDEN website, review the guidance. Guidance and templates are located, and you'll see that the chemistry one has been recently updated. And, to the bottom, but it's now got the isotope dilution analysis business rules as Appendix C, and passive sampler data entry guidance that we talked about many months now. That's Appendix D. And so I just want to make sure that we close the loop on those items. Well, there. If there are...
Hey, Dharma. You're cutting in and out, and I don't know.
I'll turn off my camera in case that's using up stuff. See, hopefully that's better.
Bandwidth.
Yeah. Also, I I don't know if I'm speaking all that consistently in my tone of voice, so I will try to do that. Thanks for saying something.
Okay.
And we'll move on. If you have problems, we'll try something else. So then the next item on our data entry guidance, we talked about the in kind of comparison to the passive sample guidance that we felt was necessary to have a whole separate appendix for. We didn't think it was necessary to have separate guidance, but maybe some note or hints. Oh, still cutting out. Okay. And just prepared a sample data entry line for passive or for active samplers, and I attached that to the when I sent out the agenda. Hopefully you have access to that. I'll bring that up. This is our existing data entry template with data with this additional line, active sampler. And I noted here that it, I can't see a note now. Devices with moving parts to pull in known quantities of water. I know from our last meeting, I had just done a quick internet search, and one place I found use the term not mean places that I've been talking about, like a clam And so I just wanted to put something there to be clear of what the type of devices that were out. And then I just have um, basically the same monitoring location, sampling date. All of this is pretty much the same. Let me see if I can, sorry, make it a little bit bigger for you. Oh. Okay, I see that I'm still, there's still definitely a problem. Turn off my cam. Any suggestions about what I can do to, is it just, it's like a bandwidth issue? Headset. Yeah, let me go get that and I'll be right back. Sorry. No, you can't hear. How about now?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Oh. Okay. Okay, so hopefully this, thank you for working with me. So we have our, back to our guidance entry sampler with a note of types of sampler devices we're talking about. Then we have a regular code, sample date, project code, event code, protocol code, agency code, location code, collection time. Then we talked about potentially having different and collection method codes for different lengths of time, because I didn't want 34, 35 hours, 36, different one. But I looked at the existing entries for autos, pointed out from last time, several, but it's not, it's not endless. So thought we could do it like with a time indication on it. But I highlighted it because that was a little, I think we talked about different options there. And then for the collection device, I had the type of device and then the indication of the type of disk that and tissue sampling event. And then I think everything else is we would expect it. And I think kind of that's what we were saying, as it is pretty similar to the rest of the entry that we would expect. So didn't need a lot of additional guidance. I wasn't sure if there was necessarily a preservation done for this device. For the passive sampler, it was of the device. I didn't know, maybe somebody who has a better understanding of these devices could weigh in on whether necessarily filtered or not. But that's kind of all that I have, and highlighting that the result would be given in analyte mass per volume of water.
Jarma, what about in addition to the duration of sampling, the volume of water extracted?
Yeah, I think our only choice option for that would be additional information. I'm not sure would put it some that is there a typical setting? Like, is it like 10 or 20 or 30, like the again a setting on the device, or is it just how long is it connected to how long you necessarily connected to how long you leave it out there?
It's both. With the flow proportion sampling that CClean uses, sample duration, the challenge with that sampling is predicting what the flow in the stream or the river will be during the next 30 days, because we like to sample over a 30-day period. So if we get a storm and flow really increases, then we sometimes cut the sampling short because we've achieved our target volume. So our target volume, and this varies according to different types of compounds that you're sampling, but on CClean, our target volume is 250 liters, but we can go much higher than that because there's plenty of capacity in the resin. So it is variable, but the more you have, as long as you don't exceed the capacity of the media, and we never do that. That's would be somewhere north of 500 liters. But if you don't exceed the capacity of the media, then the more liters you collect, the lower your reporting limit is. So it's kind of a fine dance, but so there's no set thing except that it all basically depends upon our ability to predict flow over a 30-day period, and then cut things off if we get a storm event, or say they've been recycling at a wastewater treatment plant and suddenly they're no longer recycling, and so we get a big slug of water through. So time is variable and volume is variable, but the higher the volume that we sample, the lower our reporting limits are.
Okay, thank you. Adam, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm on that. I want to say that I know that there are analytes for things like extract volume. I don't remember if there's one for like sample volume to record it that way. But the main comment I was going to make, two of them, were one with the description in the note. I was worried that that was too generic, because if I read it correctly, that could pertain to things like just regular peristaltic pumps that you're using for a grab sample. And then the second thing is that I think generally these sorts of samples have to be field filtered in some way, but I don't know if it would meet the definition of field filtered because the filter might be bigger. And then it might also for prep pres be field sorbed for like all of them. I think that's a prep pres is field sorbed.
Okay, so absorbed. Let's check.
And where would those notes go in the EDD?
I think that his first one of his comments that I put in the heading that says active sample is data from devices with moving parts to pull in and known quantities of water.
Okay.
If anybody has suggestions to make it more specific, like maybe discuss
across a media.
Yeah, across
Like
the media. Yeah, across the media. Right. That's a good point.
I don't even know if I would have a known quantity of water, because that makes it sound like you're trying your target. If you don't get 100 liters of water, which is your target, then it's an issue.
So with that, I was trying to distinguish it from passive samplers. So would leave the moving parts, but not the known quantity?
No, it needs to be a known. If it's not a known quantity of water, then there's no way to convert from mass to concentration. That has to be a known quantity of water.
I guess you know it after the fact, though.
Yes. Well, we target it.
Yeah.
But we don't know until the end what the total volume is. But this description is essential to distinguish between passive and active sampling.
Okay, so I think I understood what that I if like it at the end, but it doesn't necessarily say that it has to be the targeted amounts. Now that I've added it.
Right. Correct. That's correct.
Okay. And so then was also saying that that potentially we could have an analyte for field sorbed. Sample volume. He knew that there was one for extract volume, but either we could use an existing one or add one, so that for event, you would record an extra analyte, which would be the sample volume. Do people like that? Biomass composite sample volume. In an integrated sample, so I'm not sure. Do you think that would be confusing?
Yes.
Okay. Fine. Sample volume. Volume of water collected in the field. I think that would, I guess, two questions. Do people generally like that method of adding an additional row of data for the volume that was processed? And then if so, do they like this option, volume of water collected in the field?
I do.
Okay, great. Okay, so then I won't finish it now, but I'll just we'd in addition to that first line, oops, we'd have a second line that had the, oh gosh, and go add it like that. Okay, I'll finish that line. On the third comment that Adam had was on prep preservation. There's currently no sorbed option, but we could add it if it was general. Marco.
Yeah, hi, Jarma. I just had a question. For the analyte, are you suggesting that you would put the volume information in the CAM results table or in the habitat results table?
Oh, I was in the chem results table, so you could just add it at the same time as you were
Yeah, for
everything else.
bioassessment, at least for bioassessment, when we record the composite volume, the chlorophyll sample volume, things like that, we put it in the habitat results rather than in like the taxonomy table or the chem table. Doesn't really seem like it's a specific result associated with the chem table, because I think for sample volume, especially when you have a project that collects 10 or 15 different bottles, if you have a generic analyte of sample volume that is supposed to be linked to your active sampler, but you have these other samples that are collected, I think it could cause confusion.
Okay, yeah, then they would, somebody may just build new separate template just for that one entry. Seems cumbersome, but
it also really can't go in the chemistry one. It's not going to have, reporting limits, and it's just going to be an odd fit for it to fit in the chemistry when they're taking that sample volume. It fits better in the, yeah. Does that make sense? Like a lot of the pieces for sample volume, all that information that we're collecting, when you start trying to put it into the lab results, it doesn't really fit very well because everything's going to be not applicable.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I agree with that because, say in the case of C-Clean, we have a whole bunch of different analytes and they get broken up for quantitation based upon how they're extracted from the media. And so, there's that split that happens down in the analytical chain of events that means that you're really measuring these, say, PCBs in maybe 40% of the extract of the whole 250 liters. So I think it probably does belong someplace else, not attached to each analyte.
Is it realistic for people to put in start a whole new template just for that one analyte of sample volume?
No, I don't think so. In retrospect, this is probably, time is a lot easier, but yeah, and all the analytes, regardless of what fraction of the total extract is used to analyze them, they've all been collected over a certain period of time. So maybe just the duration of sampling is is a better way to handle this.
And then I think you did say it did tie to the reporting limit, so you get some indication of that by
Yeah.
your reporting
Yeah.
limit. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, I think
exactly.
it'll be a compromise between, getting everything and then being aware of how much hassle it's going to be to just report that one. Okay,
Yeah, for sure.
thanks for walking through. So back to preservation. Adam had suggested if- for passive, we use field filtered, and I think he was suggesting that for both passive and active that we use field sorbed instead. Was your something else?
It was, I guess I hadn't really thought about because you could have an unfiltered passive sampler. I just was thinking for the varieties of active samplers that I know, like they wouldn't work if they didn't have some sort of filtration. But I just wasn't sure because like field filtered, I forget what the exact definition was, but at least it used to have a certain size classification associated with it. And I don't know if it would meet that definition. And I could have sworn field sorbed was some sort of pres, but if it's not, then I'm not sure what I was thinking of then.
Hmm. Our definition for field filtered now says filtration occurred on site or outside a lab clean environment. So definition.
Well, that clearly does not apply to the XAD2 resin extractions or filtrations. Because they are, all that is done in the field, but it's not, it happens when the sample is collected. So it's never exposed to the environment.
Oh. Okay.
So I don't think, for seep clean sampling, I don't think we need to specify that.
So maybe to specific setup, maybe there are setups that would fit the field filter definition, but not everyone. So that it would depend on case. Sounds like. Okay. Tori, did you have a question? I didn't mean for you to not ask it. I just was trying to understand.
Oh, no, no.
Okay.
I just didn't want to think that I had an answer for what they were saying. Mine was completely separate, so I didn't want to derail the conversation.
Okay.
Mine was just, it's not super important, but if you go back to the template that you were going to post, I was just hoping that you could put, I know it's not, if you go over to the right to your lab sample, the lab sample IDs, I was just wondering if you could fill that out to encourage people to try and put something. When they see it blank, I feel like they just are like, oh, they put blank, so I'm going to put blank. So even though it's not fully required or anything, I just like to try and encourage people to put that stuff.
Okay.
So I wonder if you could add it. Even if it's something made up in there, it's just,
yeah.
then it'll encourage people to maybe put something. So
Okay, yeah.
Sorry, not super important, just.
No, sure, I get it.
Paul, do we get that from SGS?
I'm sorry, I was just taking a phone call. What was the question?
So on the screen there now, the sample ID, lab sample ID, and lab result comments? Well, I know we get lab result comments, but those AM and AN, do we get
Yeah.
that information from SGS?
Yeah, we do.
Okay, yep, great. We're good.
Good.
Thank you.
And about what we have here, or any other things on active samplers? Are we good with including different in the collection method code?
Sorry, just quickly. I just was curious. Maybe this is off date, but like, I just from like curiosity's sake, how do you run a 30-day pump system with no filter?
Oh, there is a filter. It's point, I think nominal 1 micron filter, and it all gets, and that filter gets extracted at the same time as the sample media. So we get whole water concentrations.
Okay, so when we used to do Infiltrax samples with Axis, we would get them reported separately as dissolved in particulate, the filter and the XAD resin.
Yeah.
So that was where I didn't realize they would report them combined as a total value.
Yes, and if you don't, then you are again increasing your reporting limits because you're running the sample on 2 different components. So we've done that before in cases where we wanted to know what was on the dissolve versus the particulate fractions. But typically, because we're concerned about loads to the ocean, we don't care whether it's particulate or dissolved. So they combine it. They combine the extracts and give us a whole water concentration.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like maybe because we can have several different setups, and I don't want to convey through the poll that this is the only way to go. And I'll try to put in a couple other examples as well to show that, as we've talked about, there could be filter reported as dissolved, and some would be reported as a prep preservation and reporting out the total. So I will a couple more rows.
Well, so Jarma, that's an interesting point that with active sampling, you could report both particulate and dissolved, because in one case, it's going to be milligrams per liter. In another case, or nanograms per liter, or picograms per liter. In another case, it's going to be nano or picograms per gram dry weight, because it's you've separated out the particulate fraction.
Okay, yeah, so I can put in one of those examples as well where they're separated.
And then this K, column K, so we do have, I mean, we have a target number of days, but if you want hours, then it's going to be highly variable. There won't be a consistent number of hours that describes our sample. So it's kind of back to the question or the concern that you had at the beginning about an infinite number of possibilities there.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't know that they could stay out there for 30 days. So that that does make it me think about that problem again. Collection.
I mean, the way we do it for like auto samplers is there's just a 7-day like auto sampler 7D. I mean, I think the assumption is that if it's like roughly correct, that you would use 7D, even if it's, you know, a couple hours more. But I don't know, maybe the level of precision of that you want to record is hour. I that's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if we went to the day, I picked 36 hours because there was a 24-hour, and when I was looking at the clam sampler, and I was looking up that was the be out there for. So I didn't realize that it could go out. Said, and looking at these, we could go out, round it to the nearest day, but even for 30 days, that's a lot of days. So we could do.
So
over a
if you
week.
have separate columns for the duration, a separate column for the duration and the sampler type, it becomes just a numerical value that you put in that column for duration.
Yeah, at this point, we just have, this is the collection method. We could have as you here, but to have a separate column altogether, we just have to put it in the comment field. And Melissa suggested in the comments, we could put the comments, not the lab result comments, but the sample comments. There we go. So we could maybe do weeks for the collection method. If it's over a week, then round it to the nearest week. You know, and then we just have, and then put the sample volume in the comment. And then you said 200 was. Do you think rounding 3 weeks, or if it was 24 days and you just 3 weeks, or I guess that's like 4 weeks. Anyway, if you just rounded it to the nearest week, would that be good enough or not helpful?
Yeah, no, that would be fine with us. But so would that be also in column G, or is that just volume?
I was suggesting the column G just be volume. A would be like what you see there, but instead of you know, having a, like, maybe our options would be active sampler, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Something like that.
Sure.
I think you have your hand up. Stacy? Stacy, can you hear me? All right, well, maybe when Stacy's able, oh, okay.
Okay.
Is it *6? Oh, you went. Oh, we heard you for a second.
Can you hear me now, Dharma?
Yes.
Okay. The 250 liters should actually go in the lab collection comment because it's a collection. It's related to the collection, not the sample.
Thank
you. So
you.
it should go in column R to be specific to that collection.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thanks for the catch.
Okay.
Do you have another question?
But I see above that for the passive sampler that's where the duration goes as well.
That's what we decided for the passive samplers, kind of in the same, because of the same discussion. Now it's seeming like if we're in agreement to have to round to the nearest week, maybe that's what we do for passive samplers, not to open up that that discussion again, but it does seem like it would work if you just round to the nearest week, that we could do the same for passive samplers. So that's a good point. Let's hear from Melissa.
You can hear me okay, Jarma?
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, I think my suggestion just is if we do want to be accurate, especially for CClean data, Dane, then I just figure we could use those comments fields or those comments columns to really record what actually happened. So yeah, if the 250 liter should go in the lab collection comments, that's fine. But then maybe he could use, or they could use the sample comments field to indicate, like use the collection method code that most accurately represents the time frame, but then you can record that specific information into one of the comment fields. So either in the sample comments or the lab comments. I think there's just a character limit, right? Like those are free form fields.
Yes, they're free text fields.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that would just be my suggestion if you want to really record the specifics of the sampling event.
Okay, well, and I think, we had come back to just including duration here, and not worrying so much about volume. So, yeah, I think if we keep it simple like that, that's the best approach.
Okay.
Agreed. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Have the different options, round to the nearest week, and suggest that you also use the comments with the specific number of days. Is that what I got out of?
Well,
discussion?
so actually, if we do fill out this column R as I think we're leaning toward, I don't know why the collection method code needs to include duration. Why complicate that?
Okay. Makes sense to me.
I mean, I'll just push back a little bit in that, like, generally speaking, recording stuff in comments is like the worst possible thing you can do. So having some semblance of a controlled value might be a good idea.
And then the program, if it, as Melissa was saying, wanted to be more precise, and they're interested in using, are willing to go through the trouble of using the comments both on the lab side and on the data consuming side, then they can. So it's kind of a happy median.
Yeah, I mean, we're just working around the inability of CEDEN to record a start and end time. So it's like, yeah, we can do it in comments, but like there's a reason that we're adding eventually like a PR and RPD. Like there's a reason we try and pull stuff out of comments, because like processing comments, if you're trying to be a data user, is pretty difficult.
And it's hard to control. A lot of people won't put it in the comments either. So then you won't get the information at all, or it's in a different format. Everybody does it different. Comments are tough.
Okay.
So if it's important, you probably don't want it in the comments, but I get why. I mean, I understand both, but
yeah. So I mean, if it's something as simple as like, you know, it doesn't matter exactly how long it was. So it's like you have a difference between, you know, active sampler, like short term, long term. Like I don't know, but to me it seems like people would care. Like there's a reason that the auto sampler options exist. But if people aren't finding use in it, then it seems odd to me that to just shove everything into comments.
Okay, I think a compromise of rounding to the nearest week, and if you're a program that wants that more precise information, you can put it in the comment as more information.
Here's a question that regards use of data. So if the data from CEDEN are being used, say, and they are in recommending water bodies for listing on the 303D list, then will data from certain columns, like, as you say, controlled vocabulary, be scanned for determining what the objectives are that the data are being compared to? So, in other words, if you have a 30-day sample, you need to have it indicated someplace in controlled vocabulary so that the regulators know that these data would apply to 30-day average concentrations, say, in the ocean.
I think how the time period over which collecting hasn't been I don't think we know how it'll be compared to that averaging period, and so having the controlled vocabulary will at least ensure that we're getting an estimated time frame, because as was suggested, people won't always put comments and don't put it in the necessarily the same, even if, as we suggest, and I see that a lot with the percent recovery now. So if we encourage people to use the lab collection comments, then those for the actual duration, this is a good compromise. Round to the nearest week for something over a week, and put in the actual number of days in the collection comments.
The only thing I'd say about weeks is if people are specifically targeting 30-day samplers in order to meet like regulator needs, then you may want to have the option specifically for
specific. I'd replace the 4 week, like just have a 2, and then we might as well the 4-week, or just have weeks and then day, because that would likely be popular.
Grandma, can I just say something about that?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like since the auto sampler already has everything specified in days, it seems like it would make more sense just to leave it as days. So like 7D, 14D, 21D, you know, whatever, 30D.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything else specifies it in durations of weeks. So I know that a lot of the tests that we do for things like toxicity as well, it's either, you know, identified as a day or 96 hour, 10 hours. So it's like hours and days. I don't think I've seen weeks really. So instead of including
Okay.
a new,
Yeah.
just my
Yeah,
opinion.
that's fine.
I would agree with that too. Also, when things
Yeah.
don't line up to the exact day, I don't know if it'd be intuitive to, I don't know. I think I would end up utilizing the active sample with nothing, because if it doesn't land on the exact days that I'm trying to target, I think I would probably go the other way, just saying, I mean, I
Yeah,
don't
I
think I'd
guess
want to round.
with the um I was going, I thought description, like in the description, these don't say it, but you know, sample is collected weeks, round to the nearest week. With if we, I don't know how to say that, because I guess we could still say round to the nearest week, but so I was going to give that guidance too, that in the definition to round, but
Oh, okay.
I hesitate using days, and I mean I agree that everything else is, so that makes sense, but it's harder to say round. I don't know what you would say for giving guidance to. But I can work on some guidance language, and since getting to the end, I definitely point of being consistent with days, and that makes sense. And I mean, Tori, are you saying that because you wouldn't, if, would you feel better about it if the definition said to round it?
Yeah, if the definition says that, then you'd know, okay, I can use that. And then if you have that open-ended one, if people aren't comfortable with that, they can have the open-ended with the comments. I think that gives everybody the option to do what they feel comfortable with. And it's,
Okay.
yeah, as long as it's clear.
Okay. Great. Well, I'll work on description that says that and see what I come up with. I mean, I guess I could just change instead, like this includes 18 to 24 days or something like that.
Range, yeah. I really do like the examples, Dharma. Thank you so much for taking the time to put them in here. Just helps me visualize it so much. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think we'll wrap up here. Thanks for all of your comments and helping me understand how active samplers work. It's been a discussion. If you think of any, please let me know. I think we, like I said, I'll work on that rounding language and also put in a couple more lines to try to convey that these aren't for the fields that are not set just because they're active samplers, to show that it's flexible. So again, thank you. And as I said in the agenda, I'm going to skip the December meeting, and I'll hopefully see you in January.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining. Bye.
Thank you. Have a happy New Year and a Merry Christmas, I guess.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Happy
Seems so far away, but
Thanksgiving.
yes. All right, you too. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye.